All right, everyone, I'm going to hit the record button. And since we're at the top of the hour and we've got 30 minutes to cover a lot of good stuff, we will go ahead and get started. So we will be recording today, just as a quick reminder. So I'm going to do that right now. And everyone should be able to hear me okay, and also see my slides. If you cannot, please. Okay, so that's the recording. Please put something in the chat or the Q&A if you cannot hear me, and I will make sure that we get that fixed. I'll call in or whatever is needed. So thank you for being here today, everyone. We're going to be talking about 10 transferable skills to help you change careers. I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm a certified career coach and founder of my own company about 25 years ago. And we do these webinars in partnership with Georgia State University, but they're also open to the public and to our clients and prospects, et cetera, as well. So just as a quick reminder for anyone who is just joining, just one admin item, you will get a copy of the recording today. You should be able to hear me okay, as well as see my slides. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let me know in the chat or the Q&A if you cannot hear or see me, or see the slides, really important. So I'm a certified career coach. If you haven't joined us before, I've been coaching and training since 2002. I love what I do, and I get excited presenting this material and information. I have a career coach certification, but an undergraduate degree as well from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And the advice we're going to give you today is advice that we give to all of our clients, and we're going to give you a lot of suggestions. So one thing I always like to say at the beginning of our webinars is that please pick and choose what makes the most sense for you and your situation at this moment. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed because I do give a lot of valuable, I think, helpful information. And I just don't want you to feel too overwhelmed at the end of this. So pick and choose like one or two things that make the most sense for you to take on as action steps as we progress here. And as a reminder, you'll be able to listen to the recording later. It will be live on YouTube, and we're streaming it live right now as well. So let's dive in and talk about why this topic is important and why it's such a big deal for our clients and the people that we work with. Career change can be overwhelming for people, understandably. You know, our jobs are usually part of our identity in some way, shape, or form. I mean, everybody's different, but most people feel that way to a certain extent. And when we make a change in this area because our jobs pay our bills, it's a big deal. Our clients will tell us they don't know where to start. And a lot of times they'll just put off their career transition, even if they're really unhappy, sometimes for years. Sometimes people are just like, this is so scary. It's overwhelming. I don't know how to proceed. And I just, would rather sit tight because it's safe, so to speak, even if I'm not in the right career path. And then finally, people will tell us too that they're unsure how to represent themselves effectively for another industry, which is obviously the main reason why we're talking today. If you take a look at this next slide, as we all know, the reason why this idea of transferable skills is so critically important is that resumes and LinkedIn profiles, honestly, too, they're scanned really quickly by computer systems as well as by employers and people that actually look at them. So we really need to make sure that you're presenting yourself in the right way and leveraging those transferable skills, especially when you're in a situation like we are when we're talking about this today, like most of you are, where you don't have as much experience in a specific industry or role, et cetera. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So here's the good news on this next slide. You can make a change. There's a reason why we've been in business for over 25 years, that people can make an adjustment and change. But we always tell people, and there's two things on this next slide, kind of two buckets. You do have to have the right perspective about this, okay? So when you are trying to make a change, please know it's not going to happen overnight. It's not one day you're in your job and the next day you're in your brand new job, okay? It does take time. And when you're trying to make a shift, Your job search will take more time than if you were not trying to do so. Now, if you do the things that we're talking about today, and as well do as much networking as possible and talking with people, it's going to be faster. But just be realistic about this. You also want to be realistic about the types of jobs that you can get into. I most likely, at age 51, I don't want to do this, luckily, but I most likely am not going to go be an astronaut tomorrow. Now, I know that there are people who are older who have become that, and that's fantastic. But what we're trying to say here is you can make a change into something you really enjoy. Like what we found is that when people even make a course correction and make some changes, like even a few smaller, slight changes, they can actually be really happy in a new path. Small changes equal big results usually here. But you also need to be realistic about what you can actually get into based on your past experience, how long you've been in that industry, and also what your transferable skills are too. So just be realistic about the whole thing as well. And then finally, in the middle here, and then we'll go to the second bucket at the bottom, remember that no job is going to be perfect. My job is not perfect. I love it and I feel like I'm meant to do it, but it's not perfect. There are always going to be things that we have to compromise on in our jobs. A coworker, we don't get along with quite as much. A project we don't like as much, etc. That's just normal. What we find is that the rule of thumb is that if the good parts about your job so far outweigh the bad parts, the things you don't like as much, you're going to be a happy camper. And when you are at choice about where you are compromising, it makes a huge difference in your satisfaction. Now, when we look at the very bottom right-hand side of this slide, when you're quote unquote being realistic, like I said, you may want to think about when you're considering a transition, it could be a dramatic change. It may be less so. But you could brainstorm ideas like that are industry or role adjacent, similar to what you're doing now, or like related to those things, but different enough that it's going to give you greater satisfaction. You could also consider and look at vendors to your industry. That's kind of another area you can poke around in. And in some cases for people, they're able to make a change within their organization or within their industry and find greater satisfaction as a result there. So here's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to give you 10 transferable skills that we'd like you to take a look at, please, and explain how to start articulating those to a new prospective employer. Along the way, we're going to talk about resume formatting, and we're also going to talk about branding yourself effectively too, okay? So the first thing I want you to think about, we're not going to do live polls today because we've got limited time and I want to focus on getting you the content. But one of the things I want you to identify for yourself first, please, is do you struggle with identifying your skills in the first place or marketing yourself using them? Or is it a little bit of both? But if you can figure out, okay, which one is kind of my top priority or the biggest deal for me, that's going to help you know where you need to focus first related to the action steps and the tools that we're giving you today, okay? Where to focus the majority of your time or most of your time, if you will. So let's talk about the first one, and this is identifying those skills. And there are different ways that you can identify transferable skills, and we'll give you some tools on the next couple of slides. I'm going to move my cursor over here. This is our ideal career model. If you have attended a webinar with us before, you have seen this. This is the cornerstone of what we use with our clients to help them determine their career direction, whatever that looks like, but also help them brand themselves effectively, ask the right questions during interviews, and more. And when you are identifying transferable skills, I would like you to consider multiple pieces of this model, not just the strengths and not just the experience. Those are relevant. Transferable skills can be some of your inherent innate strengths or things that you've developed over time that could move across or translate over to another industry or role. And your past experience can be relevant as well. But we also want you to think about education. And as part of moving on or changing into something else, would it be helpful to take a couple of classes? And we also want you to think about your personality type, because when you go in that direction and take a few moments to think about personality traits that you have, some of those can actually be transferable skills too. So consider all of those elements. Another tool we would recommend that you leverage is this top 10 leadership skills wheel. It's from Development Dimensions International. And it can be really helpful to help you do a self-assessment to identify some transferable skills. And, these are leadership skills, quote unquote, but I would argue that regardless of whether you are a leader managing people or not, these are still relevant. Rate yourself in each area, identify your top 3 to 5 strengths. And I would even use this wheel to ask other people what they see are your strengths and how well you do in each of these areas. Again, it can be helpful for you to identify what you have that can go across industries, roles, corporations, organizations. The third thing that we think is helpful is to keep an accomplishments document right now, even if you're not in job search mode yet, but stick a Word document on your desktop and start to keep track of and hold on to emails you get from happy clients, a kudo that you got from your boss, skills and experience that you've obtained, or really specific things that you may not put on your resume, so you might forget it, but it's like, oh, this actual project I'm working on right now is demonstrating some of my transferable skills. And when you start to write these things out, once you notice or start to notice some themes in what you're saying, management, project, organization, etc., that's going to give you some clues to some of your transferable skills. The last thing we would highly recommend you do in identifying these, and I think this one is a really great one as well, because we tend to discount what comes naturally to us. I remember one time my mom she lives close by, helps out with her son. And she gave me, some advice about something. And I was like, God, that's a really good, words of wisdom or whatever. And I said, where'd you hear that? And she said, it was on one of your blogs. My point is, when you do something so well naturally, you tend to assume that other people can do the same thing just as well. And that's not the case. Your skills are unique to you and your combination of skills are unique to you. So we really find it helpful to interview other people based on how they see you, what adjectives come to their mind, where do you excel, what skills do they think you have that you may be discounting, and what skills do they believe you have that you could actually use elsewhere. And we find it can be helpful to interview others, a blend of people, male, female, friends, coworkers, get varying opinions from different people who have different or play different roles in your life. That can give you kind of a broader scope of things. All right, let's dive into next the 10 transferable skills that we want to share with you today. These are the ones we find are the most common, but also the most important in many ways in today's economy too. So I'll go through all 10 of these and explain a little bit more about each one as we progress here. So one transferable skill, I think this is a pretty big but obvious one too, is management. And the key here with all of these skills, though, as we're talking through them, is you don't want to just say management skills. Like, what does that mean? It's not specific enough. So we want you to drill down as much as possible with each of these transferable skills and explain on your resume and on LinkedIn what the heck these things mean in your particular case. Is it managing others? Is it project or programs management? Is it operations management? And think about, okay, where could you use this in another industry? And what would you need to learn or demonstrate that you know in order to get this next job? That can help you drill down a little bit more and explain it further is the bottom line here. Technical skills is another one, obviously very, very big with AI, everything else going on. So demonstrating and explaining your knowledge of specific software, applications, data engineering, those types of things too. And if you don't, for example, have experience with the specific software that they're looking for, you can talk about the software and technical skills that you actually do have, and then explain during an interview, or even on your resume, ability to very quickly, pick up new technical skills, learn a new application, etc., to help you cover that base when you don't have something that's as industry specific, let's say. 2 more of the transferable skills are communication and critical thinking. On the slide here, you'll see some ideas about how you can drill down deeper with communication. Is it change management? Is it writing, editing, presenting? Is it relationship building and management? Remember, when you're updating your resume and your LinkedIn profile, you only want to list skills that are going to be relevant for that job. So in addition to drilling down, don't put anything in there that's not relevant. My running joke, or our running joke, is that an employer or recruiter, imagine that they're like a dog on a scent. And if they're looking for chicken and you throw beef in there, they're going to go look elsewhere for that chicken. So I know that a lot of times people are, well, I want to show that I've got a variety of skills and experience and I can do anything and all these different things. And I get that. But think about that analogy when you're adding things to your resume, and definitely do remove things that really aren't going to be relevant, because they're going to start to think of you in that way, which is not what we want them to think of as part of your brand. On the bottom here, the second one with critical thinking, again, be specific with this. What type of critical thinking? Is it for problem solving, or is it for efficiency or strategic planning and big picture thinking? So there's lots of different ways to be good at critical thinking, and we want you to get really specific. Another one, which is really important for a lot of different reasons, is multitasking, and the ability to manage, either work with multiple clients at a time or multiple projects at a time, again, if it's relevant for the jobs you're looking for. Multitasking can have many forms. If you look on this next slide here, is it, I'm great at being detail oriented, but also I can think in terms of the big picture and strategize leveraging those details? Or are you the opposite and you're like, no, I'm the person who is really good at digging into the details, analyzing them and telling a story from them, but don't put me in front of the client. That's not what I'm looking for. It could be ability to work under pressure, deadlines, projects, accounts, people and teams, etc. Again, here you want to get as specific as possible with what multitasking means in your situation as it relates to the next job. Two more transferable skills are teamwork, leading teams. If you're looking at leading teams remotely, you got to put that in there. Working within remote teams or international teams. Again, as many adjectives and details as possible. There are some examples on this slide, like team communication, team efficiency. So one person may be really good at, for example, leading a team, but they might not be as good at organizing it. Like they're good at being the leader and the manager of the people, but not as good with the efficiency, for example. So again, focusing on where you come into your strengths here. And then on the bottom with creativity, this can go so many ways. Creative thinking, it could be graphic design, like literally being creative with drawing, etc. Or it could be creative problem solving related to blah, 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 like engineering problems or issues. Again, get industry specific there if it's going to be relevant for the next organization that you're looking at. So for example, if you're looking to stay within engineering, but a different type of engineering, that could be relevant, that particular example. And then finally, our last three are leadership, research, and analytical skills. And again, here, like the questions that you want to ask yourself with leadership are, what type of leadership strengths do I have? Is it team? Is it HR leadership, operations leadership, finance leadership, specific areas of the organization, or does it go across the organization? Think about the specific leadership qualities that would be relevant to the position that you're applying to. And as part of research, number 2 here on this slide, what kind of research? Data, marketing, etc. And I would say with all of these, including research, another question you can ask yourself to drill down a little bit more and identify what the results would be of this transferable skill is, what are you able to do with this research or with your leadership strengths? Is it that you're able to help other people perform more effectively, plan more effectively, etc.? So as much as you can, not just drilling down into what the strength is in and of itself, but what the result is that you're able to achieve from it too. And then finally, analytical skills, really big deal. Asking yourself here again, what are the results of the analysis that I'm able to perform? What type of analysis am I really good at? So for example, with our coaches, we're not necessarily good at data analysis or event planning and, analyzing budgets. We are good at analyzing people's personality types, relationships, and coming up with career ideas. So that would be where our analytical skills come in. Everyone has kind of a unique set of skills and how they play together. Let's look at step number 2, or tips under resume, kind of our agenda item number 2. So when you're looking at and working on updating your resume, and a lot of this will go for your LinkedIn too, but we'll focus on resume for today. You want both your resume and LinkedIn to sell you, brand you, and help you feel confident. And the thing that we find our clients don't do as well as they do with maybe updating their resume and selling themselves is this idea of branding themselves effectively. And we'll give you a couple of examples here. You need to paint a picture when someone lands on your LinkedIn profile or looks at your resume of what you're looking for, what type of professional you are, and what you bring to the table, what type of results you can bring to the table. Okay. So when we're looking at our resume specifically, in terms of the formatting, one bit of advice, and we'll show you examples here a little bit as we go. I'll show you an example of a summary statement in a moment. With the formatting, we want you to have a summary statement at the top. Now, in some very high-tech positions, you don't need a summary, or it can be very short and sweet. But everybody else outside of that, you do want to have at least a basic summary at the top. We want you to have a skills section because that's good for what we're talking about today, your transferable skills, and it's good for the ATS scanners. And finally, we want you to have an experience section. Obviously, nobody's going to forget that one. With your experience section, we want it to be as results oriented as possible. Put some numbers in there. Put some percentages or even ranges of either of those is acceptable, but try to have them be as results focused or oriented as possible. Now, the other thing I want to point out here, and these are just a couple of examples, big picture, that as a reminder, resumes do look fancy these days. And we recommend that clients use some color, that you use some shading, and maybe, if it would be relevant for your career path, some graphics on there. You don't have to have graphics, but it depends on your situation. But we would recommend blue, red. Sometimes we will use green with clients. Outside of that, those are usually the main colors. And you want to have a branded header with your contact information at the top, as you see here on this slide. You want to have the job title that you're applying to with a quick kind of tagline underneath. And then you've got your summary statement here and your skills section here. And this is part of what we're talking about today. We have some awesome templates that you can purchase from us that really will help you update your resume so much on your own. Clients love it. It gives them ideas about phrasing, formatting, and how to organize the text, because we give you the templates that you can play around with and use, but we also give you a very comprehensive notes document that explains how to update each of your sections. And that's why there's this testimonial on the slide here, because people just really like that kind of added bonus. It's not just the templates. They will get you past the ATS scanners, as well as they will look good and contemporary too. So you can have a resume that looks good, but still gets past those computers as well. If you want information on those, just email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com, and I'll send you the link. It's on our website under our resume services page at the very bottom. Also, with your resume, things that you want to avoid are things listed on this slide. You want to make sure that you've got enough white space, everything's consistent, and that you also do not have any underlining, tables, or columns, because those can mess up the applicant tracking system scanners. So be careful about those. With formatting too, make sure on the right-hand side of this slide, you don't overuse bold and italics and capitalization. People tend to like to capitalize a lot of things, and it starts to look like grammatically incorrect. So just be careful about that. And remember, just a quick additional nugget is When you're emailing someone your resume or uploading it onto a job board, you want to have or transfer it into a PDF, because PDF holds the formatting versus Word. If they open it up in a different version of Word on their end, it's going to look bad. Now, if you look on this slide here on the left, just point of clarification, you may want to have a fancier version for interviews and networking and a more plain version for applying for jobs online. We have the templates that kind of cover both bases. This is more for people who are like really creative, like to put a lot of different stuff and creativity into their resume. They may want to have something that's separate, that's more plain. But we usually give to our clients one that checks both boxes, and that's what those templates are. In terms of the formatting, in some cases, we'll recommend that people include an excerpt or two from LinkedIn in their experience section. And it's always a good idea, if you do that, to use the ones that reference transferable skills and strengths for the specific job you're looking at. And finally, a couple of notes about branding. Remember, I said that at the beginning, people don't brand themselves as well. You don't have to have a header like this, so don't get too freaked out. Remember, in the previous example, it was a blue background, straightforward, all of that. But the point is, we want you to have your name. We want you to have some keywords or a good tagline here so that people know, again, right away, like, oh, I know who this person is, okay? They're not having to hunt and peck and read further. They know right away the types of jobs that she might be looking for, as well as what her brand is and what she brings to the table. You need to make it easy on them. And I just showed you the example about the tagline at the top. It needs to be for the path you're targeting, not just where you've been, your unique selling points, your soft skills. And one way to think about this is, okay, what am I known for? If people walked out of the room, or sorry, if I walked out of the room, what would people say about me in a positive way? And that can help you get ideas about what your brand might be. We want you to create a compelling summary. The arrow here is pointing to what this summary is here. This is a really important piece for keywords, but also for branding and selling yourself effectively. And you can use a format like this to break out some of your transferable skills. That's why that's there looking like that, okay? We want you to make sure that you tailor your resume to each position. We talked about this already, quantifiable results as much as possible. And we like for our clients to have one master copy of their resume that has every single thing on it that could be relevant to any of their jobs. And then they create each resume from that master so that they know for sure they haven't missed anything. And it makes it easier to tailor their resume and make it relevant to each job, okay? On this next slide are some strengths and experience. We've talked about these transferable skills already, so I'm not going to harp on this one. If you feel like you need help with anything that we've talked about today, please feel free to reach out to us. We do a free consult all the time. Helps people learn about our services, what might be the right fit for them. We give a discount for Georgia State alumni, so please reference that when you contact us and when you talk with me. And if you'd like more information about the templates, feel free to email us. The admin at createyourcareerpath.com is also the way that you can get the link to schedule with me as well. It is also listed on our website, but whatever is easier for you. All right, before we go for today, employment history. There's multiple ways to list it out. What we would recommend is on this next slide where you're breaking out your transferable skills and you've got kind of like a subhead underneath your experience section for each of your jobs where you call out each of your transferable skills and then have a little bit of a blurb there, as well as some results-oriented statistics, projects, etc. Make sure with your resume and LinkedIn, you're starting all of your sentences with active verbs. Most of us know this, just as a reminder. And what we'd like you to do is on your resume specifically, select the top 5 to 7 accomplishments that will best highlight what you're going for, or the successes and experience that would be most relevant for the job that you're applying to. We hope that this helps you be more confident. When you work on your resume and LinkedIn and you do a good job with it, you're going to feel more confident. That's the key here, is that you want to make sure that you've got the right attitude when you're looking at and thinking about your transferable skills. When you're applying for jobs and when you're going on interviews, you need to be saying to yourself, I totally can do this. No, I haven't done it in the exact way that they may be asking for, but I know how to do this. Easy peasy. The attitude is critical throughout this whole process for you. Before we go for today, I would love it if you would write down one action step that you will take in the next week, because I know we all get busy, our phones ring, we hop off and we forget to take some action. It could be anything from updating your resume to leveraging the leadership wheel to identify your skills. As a reminder, you will get a copy of the recording automatically. That will come to you via email. And if you'd like more information on our resume and LinkedIn templates, as well as learn more about our coaching services, just email us or reply to any of the emails that we've already sent you. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone. I truly hope this was helpful for you. Have a great day and good luck leveraging your transferable skills.